This podcast is part of the Treksphere Network.
To find more Star Trek-related content, visit Treksphere.com.
All right. You ready?
I can tell you are.
Stupid.
Should we cue up the music?
Yep. On April 12th, the Borg Queen was forcibly removed from her place of residence. That move came from her captor, Jean-Luc Picard. Deep down, she knew they were right, but she also knew that someday she would overpower them. With nowhere else to go, she conversed with the resident geneticist, Agnes Jurati. Several months earlier, Jurati had joined Picard's crew by force as well, requesting that she stay with the Borg Queen. Can two lonely, independent women share a cloaked Romulan warbird without driving each other crazy?
Is that it?
That's it.
I liked it. It seems very, I don't know how much you've altered it, but it seems very appropriate. Is it a Romulan warbird? I thought it was just a Q-ified universe warbird.
I don't know. Let's see. It is. It's a speed freighter. So then, why does it have it has a Romulan cloaking device? Which,
it's Rios's ship.
Yeah, because it had a Romulan cloaking device. I thought it was a Romulan ship. Maybe
I don't think it's a Romulan cloaking device. Picard at one point says, in this universe, they've been given ships have a different set of tools. I think it's just every ship has cloaking now in this terrible universe.
Right. Well, I do know for a fact that they used the sound effect of the Romulan cloaking device from Star Trek 4 and 3.
Oh, maybe that's the Easter egg. Maybe that's in this particular universe where they get their cloak from.
Well, all right. So I did that just to upset some fans and some listeners to try and email us. So did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Let us know.
It's not going to work. They're in on it. They know. They know what you're doing. They're like, oh, you almost got me, Jonathan.
Yep. Delete the email. No.
Delete the email.
I know your game. Nope, not emailing you.
I know you don't think we need this, but I think we should do it, which is, this is the measure of an episode.
Keep
it's our
going.
continuing mission.
No.
Talk about Picard.
No.
Picard edition, season 2 edition. Episode 5.
You know what's going to be amazing?
Fly me to the moon. What?
Take my audio out of that.
Well, I take it all out anyway.
Right. Yes, this is the Measure of an Episode, Star Trek edition, Picard edition, season 2 edition, episode 5 addition. Is that right?
Yes. Fly me to the moon.
All right. Should have been 5 me to the moon.
I have flew me to the moon. For some
Flew
reason.
me to the moon? It should have been would have been flown to the moon.
No, it's FLU. Me to the moon. I don't know why
nice.
it's in there. Yeah. I don't know why it's there. Picard discovers an important person from his past may be integral to the divergence in the timeline. Q continues his manipulation of the timeline, taking an interest, not intestinal, in Adam Soong, Doctor.
I was thinking the person from his past was Laris, not realizing that it was Renee. Keep going. Sorry.
Right.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. Seven and Raffi attempt a daring rescue of Rios. Was it daring? While Jurati faces the consequences of her deal with the Borg Queen. I don't know. Yeah, they attempted it. That whole sequence felt like they were building up to it. They had 2 episodes building up to this Rios thing. And it was just like, oh yeah, we just come in and we have a button that turns anything off. We just turn everything off.
Right. Yeah.
It's like 1 minute of airtime.
They used what? Petrify? Yeah.
Oh, the Harry Potter charm?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not Patronus.
I know. I was going to say that. But
not that.
No.
That would have been awesome. That's how they stopped the bus.
Just with technology, yeah. They're like, just push the Patronus button.
This universe is really different.
Yeah, I was so irritated by that. But that's way far ahead. What were you irritated by, Paul?
Well, I should start with telling you what I wasn't irritated with.
Oh, are you going to tell us what you liked and then what you didn't like?
I'm going to tell you what I liked, and then we can get on to what I didn't like.
Do you remember in our first episode when we said, this isn't going to be a podcast where we just talk about what we liked and what we didn't like?
Well, okay, so maybe we should clarify. I feel like I have to clarify this every other goddamn episode.
So
Yes,
far.
we're going to say we liked something or didn't like something, but we're going to tell you why and how and when and for what reason. You know, like we're not just going to say, oh, I like this part. Did you like it? Yeah, I did like it. Okay, well, moving on. Like we're going to give you some context as to why we don't like it and therefore why it's objectively shitty.
Yeah, this was, again, like, sorry, I'm just going to cut you off. I really liked the story and the plot, but there were beats within the story and there was dialogue that, and just character bits, specifically with Rafi, that just continue to make me so irritated with these characters. Like, I really enjoy this story about being in 2024, but I'm just irritated with everybody. Okay, go.
Well, yeah, I feel like this is the first episode that actually had some sophistication to it. And I really want to credit Jonathan Frakes, who directed this.
Yes.
Which I feel like had something to do with it. He did a really superb job. I would love to know, because the pacing is what it is. It's very quickly paced, and they're intercutting between sequences, right? It's not just sequence 1 happens, and then sequence 2 happens, and then the thing with it. They're all intercut between each other, and I would love to know if the script was originally that way, and Frakes said, no, we're going to chop it up. We can't just do this A plus B plus C plus D equals the ending, you know? We have to do something to make this move along a little bit, because it doesn't feel... no other episode has been this way.
Right.
It's always been this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So I would like to credit Jonathan Frakes, knowing nothing about how they make this stuff, to that, because I loved it. I thought the pacing was really well done. I felt like it made it move along, I think, faster than this episode would have. Because if you think about Picard,
Right.
almost every scene with Picard in it, he's sitting at a table talking to somebody.
Yes.
And maybe that's on purpose. They felt like, look, he's just sitting at a table for 11 minutes. We can't do that.
Yeah.
So let's cut it up a little bit. So I enjoyed that. The first thing that bugged me, which is, I think, only a couple minutes into this show, was he comes into, they transport, what's the Harry Potter thing where they transport themselves through fireplaces?
Flu, actually.
Flu? Yeah.
Yeah, it's flu powder. Yeah.
So they flew powdered into Laris's, or not Laris's, apartment. And we still don't know if that's actually Laris.
Right.
Why it looks like her and why she has a different name. But anyway, regardless.
Oh, and the reason is no reason.
Oh, there's no reason? Shocking. There's no reason.
Yeah. Well, and but I don't know if you remember, but much later on in the episode, there's that part where Rafi and Picard are walking down the hallway, you know, and she's like, isn't that? No, it isn't. But she totally, yes, she does. Good talk.
Oh, yeah. I like that. I actually kind of like that. That felt very Frakesian to me, too.
I liked that moment, but it's just, it's such a weird, I mean, unless it's explained later on, it's such a weird casting choice to have this random watcher person, supervisor, be the actress who played Laris. Like, why?
I'm sure there will be a reason. There's got to be a reason. It can't just be that they look alike.
Why am I the cynical one on this one? I don't think so. I think it's just isn't this interesting?
Oh, you think it's an intentional red herring meant to just troll people?
I'd like to give them more credit and think they were just dumb and not that they were trying to be malicious. But yes, I don't think that there
they just had her on set. Well, you're not doing anything today. Can you come and play this role? It would cost us less money.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. I guess we'll find out.
Right.
I'm sure there's got to be something, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be something happening. But what irritated me was Picard says to Laris, or not Laris, did Q do this? I don't know why he's Southern now, but he says, Picard says, did Q do this? And she says, what's a Q? And I don't know if somebody were to say to you, did Q do this? You wouldn't immediately think that Q was an object.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't say A. I would say, what's Q?
Or who's Q?
I wouldn't say who.
If somebody says, did blank do this? I'm assuming that's a who. Who's Q? Not what's a Q.
Right.
She would just say, who is Q? Wouldn't she?
No, I mean, sure. The best response would just be to repeat the unknown thing back. You know, did Q do this? Q?
Q? Yeah. That's the best one they could have chosen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That seems like I'm splitting hairs here.
Right. But I mean, also that doesn't assert her, like that kind of question shows like it doesn't show. It implies that like she is not as with it as she is trying to present herself to be. And so
Right.
By saying what's a Q or who's a Q. I'm asking you a question, you need to answer it.
Well, it felt like this person, not Laris, which they set her up to be kind of this omnipotent person. Not Q omnipotent, but somebody who knows everything that's going on.
Right now, yeah.
Right now. And she is going to have all the information, and she apparently doesn't. I thought that she was going to say, you know who Q is? Or something like that.
Right.
And he's always been this menace to whatever. And I thought that's where it was going to go immediately, and it didn't.
No.
And when they start showing the footage of Renee Picard going through her therapy, and I heard the voice of the therapist, I thought that was going to be Brent Spiner.
Oh, really?
Because it sounded like something a voice that he would do, right? Like sort of a cartoony type of voice. I was not expecting that to be Q. Also, so this whole Q thing is starting to mess with my brain a little bit, because the whole Picard-Q relationship has always been, I always get the impression that Q is just kind of messing with Picard specifically. He likes Picard, and he likes to put him through the ringer in terms of testing his resolve on his morals, on his ethics, on his values with the Federation, and he just likes it. And this is the first point where it feels like his intentions and his motivations are not that at all. This episode, because he's clearly lost his powers, but only some of his powers. We haven't actually seen him do anything otherworldly. We've seen him hack into somebody's computer system, right?
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And he seems to have some magical vial of medicine for Dr. Adam Soong's daughter.
Yeah, Adam Soong. Yeah, like we haven't seen how his powers are impacted, other than he was not able to influence Renee Picard to be scared.
Right, but it seems like he's been influencing her as a therapist, pretending to be a therapist. Like I want to know what we're looking at. It's very unclear what is going on, and we were told that Q. It's inferred that, or it's implied rather, that Q is in some way sick.
Right. It is not clear what his end game is, and right now it's not curiosity. It seems like it's poor writing.
Well, it feels like Q has something to lose. We don't know what that is, and we don't know why. If Q's existence in some way depends upon this timeline being the way that it is, because he's clearly taking effort outside of the scope of Picard's knowing about this.
Right.
He's taking steps to make sure it happens. Why bring Picard back anyway? So I don't know. Like he seems to have given himself a adversary for no reason.
Right.
If he can do all of these things, it's feeling a little jumbled to me.
Yeah. It seems as though the Serena crew, were left to go back in time. Like, Q. I don't know if Q can or not, but I know that he can displace people in space, but I don't know if he's ever displaced people in time.
He did with Picard in All Good Things. He was.
Oh, that's true. That's true. He did. Yeah. And with Tapestry. So yes, he can. So then it seems weird that he brought them to the alternate timeline, and then it seems as though he wanted them to go back in time, but he's the one who's trying to mess up the timeline.
He's still trying to mess it up. You get the impression with Q that whenever it's time to test Picard, or humanity for that matter, that everything has been set up. All the cards are in motion. What?
Right. The wheels are at play. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. We don't ever get to see Q doing his thing, because we always get the impression it's instantaneous.
Right.
So this is very interesting from that point. I don't know if it's just clever writing. It's like, oh, we get to see the more insider baseball in terms of
machinations.
Q. Yeah. Or if it's just bad writing. If it's just sort of another episode of who's Q? Oh, he's this omnipotent, mischievous being. Oh, okay, and we're going to show him doing stuff then. Like it doesn't seem to follow the brand of Q a little bit.
Right.
Not that I'm saying you should stick to it 100%. You should be militant about what we've seen before with Q, but it's unclear now what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Q showed that he was that his powers are askew in some way at the end of the last episode. And then in this episode, he is kind of wheeling and dealing. He hacked into Soong's computer. He brought the vial. He managed to work his way into Renee's psychological profile, he has either been her therapist for a while, in which case he's been manipulating this much longer than we've seen, or he somehow just took over and Renee didn't care. And so like there's that little bit of head scratching.
He does seem a little desperate, and we get a sense of that when he conscripts Adam Soong to help him do something. Mm-hmm. And I remember in the Next Gen episode where Q loses his powers, and he's kind of relegated to being a lowly crew member on the Enterprise, and everybody kind of resents him. Mm-hmm. But he does still retain all knowledge in that. I don't get the impression he's just a regular person. He seems to have all of the knowledge he's accumulated being Q.
Right.
He just has no powers. Mm-hmm. So I suppose he could, even without powers in this particular episode of Picard, that he could still formulate some sort of vial of medicine that would help Soong's daughter.
Right.
Yeah, we just don't know, and maybe that's the point with Q and Picard and all this stuff. Like
right.
I don't know we don't know what Q's plan is. Whereas usually with Q, we kind of know what the plan is.
Right, like he telegraphs it in a way that it's very obvious of what he's trying to do with Picard.
Right.
Yeah.
Q is very condescending in speaking with Picard in these matters. Like, oh, let me spell it out for you, Picard.
Yeah.
And so we're just we're flush with science fiction icons in this particular episode. We got Brent Spiner. Again, he's back.
Yep.
As another Soong. He's always playing these damn Soongs.
Yeah, he's now played. This is the 7th character that he's played.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we've got Leah Thompson.
Yep.
Although I think she has 2 lines in this. It is interesting that she was directing last episode. Now she's in this episode. I wonder if that was just a...
Hey, you're on set. This will save us money.
Yeah. And then it comes to Jurati and the Borg Queen.
Dude, I have so much before that we haven't talked about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
like, and it's the character beats that are like so irritating.
Okay.
So they talk about transporting Rios out of the bus, and Seven is like, no, in front of all these people, it's going to mess up the timeline in a big way. I'm like, do you remember 30 seconds ago when you teleported there, or when you transported there from inside a car in the middle of like downtown LA?
Yeah, that all of the cops apparently saw.
Yeah. Yeah, that you were completely fine with. You didn't try to turn into a dark alley. You didn't try to get out of the car and run somewhere. Like, you were driving the car, and then there was no one in the car. And there were a few cops who actually were at the front to see you disappear.
Yeah, they make the thing like, oh, I just witnessed something very strange.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, where'd they go?
Yeah.
You know, like they don't start looking in the back seat or anything. They saw them disappear.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to be so happy when I am happy that this whole thing with Rios and them rescuing Rios is done between Seven and Rafi and all that. Like, it's so dumb. Nothing makes sense in the whole 2-episode long arc of them trying to rescue Rios.
Right.
I'm happy it's done. It makes no sense. Nothing made sense.
Yeah, and just thinking about like 2 episodes have been spent of them trying to get back together. And they've learned nothing and done nothing to move the plot forward. Like they were separate, now they're together. 3 episodes later, now everybody's back together and we can move forward.
Right. They needed something. They needed to give Rafi and Seven something to do.
Oh, but you know what? He doesn't have his communicator. They got to get that back.
I think they got it back when they came into the torn up clinic. Didn't they get it back? I got the impression, maybe we didn't see them do it, but I would hope that they would take that with them. It's like, oh, well, we should leave it here in case it comes back.
Right? No. I'll have to like go back and see if they did get it. But okay, so then they're getting off the bus and she thinks it's Elnor. Like genuinely Elnor. And
I know. I thought it was like, oh, what's he doing here? It's like, this is so weird. I was like, I'm with you, Rafi. It does look like Elnor.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. It totally looked like Elnor, but it was just because it was in her mind, obviously. But why would she think that was Elnor when she watched him die? It was such an irritating moment, to actually call him Elnor when he was on the ship dead with them before she left the ship.
I think they're trying to outline how desperate she is to save Elnor. They're trying to... This is the only thing on her mind. And they're trying to demonstrate that. I don't like it because it shows how irrational she is. And even Seven says that when they're rescuing Rios. It's like, you're being ridiculous. Like, she even looks, she points at the camera. She's like, even the audience thinks this.
Right. Yeah. You know, and there she is, like, fighting back tears again as she's trying to talk to her, being like, are you good?
I know, and I feel like I have not heard anybody give me a good explanation as to why she's spontaneously so close to Elnor that it would affect her in this kind of way. Like, Picard has known him, I think I said this in another episode, Picard has known Elnor all of Elnor's life. Right. And he's moved on already. He's got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and she was a member of Starfleet. She currently is a member of Starfleet in the other timeline, which means she knows about these perils and how people are lost all the time. And loved ones are lost. Like, it's the nature of the beast. So, yeah, why is she so shook by losing Elnor?
I feel like it's just we started this fire and now we can't put it out type of writing situation. It's like we have to now continue this. I'm assuming it's going to creep back up on us. Yeah, I'm assuming that she's going to do something even more rash and irrational, and it's going to be some pivotal point that she's going to separate herself from the consensus of the group in terms of what to do. And I have a feeling we're going to have a Rogue Rafi episode or something like that, where she goes off into it. Because they wouldn't be seeding this to this hard. Right. To this degree. So we're going to hear more from Rafi.
Which, you know, if it clarifies things, I'm all for. You know, but if it's just more of her ranting and raving and being, you know, this is your fault that Eleanor's dead, then I'm not happy with it.
They need a reason for someone to do something that seems ridiculously irrational.
Right.
And this is it.
Yeah.
We're looking at it. So, yep. So be prepared, everybody, for more irritation.
Yeah. And then speaking of irritation, like, yes, I know Kirk was on the flagship, but he was, 200 years before Next Generation? And
just 100. Just 100.
Just 100? Okay. And, you know, and they did have lots of time travel adventures, but it's just incredible to me that Picard now remembers all of these minute details about Kirk's adventures. Like, he must have just recently read an autobiography or a biography on all of Kirk's adventures, specifically about his time travel, you know, because they're talking about how they can get back in time. And he's like, you know, we could slingshot around like Kirk's Enterprise did with Spock. And then this episode, he's like, oh, yeah, Kirk met a supervisor when he traveled back to Earth in 1960s.
That felt convenient.
Yeah.
A little too convenient.
Yeah. Like,
it would have been better if she...
Exactly.
Well, we don't know what her indigenous timeline is. Does she ever tell us? She obviously... I mean, is she from 2024?
No, she is from that present. Sorry. Yeah, she is from 2024. Sorry. I was thinking that's the future. And it is, but I think I'm almost caught up. Yeah. When Picard is talking to Laris when they get on the ship, and he's like, we've been through thick and thin together. And I'm like, weren't you on one mission? It was a big mission, I will grant you, but what do you mean you've been through thick and thin together? Like, usually you say that about people who you've had a lot more time with rather than one mission, unless there was more that was seen off camera, which maybe there was. It was just a weird thing to say about his crew. Like, well,
yes. I mean, they've been on one mission. I guess they've been through a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, each one of them has changed his diaper at least once.
Right. Maybe that's all he means.
Yeah. Thick and thin, you know.
Right.
You can never predict these things.
Yeah.
I feel like Picard would never say thick and thin, just to really split the hairs down. I feel like I've never heard him say that.
Right.
I don't think he would ever say that.
Yeah.
That feels too informal to me to be coming from Picard.
Yeah. I mean, conversely, like, maybe that is something that the Romulan pets said, that he, you know, he just kind of picked up spending so much time with them, however long he's been with them.
Right. Yeah. It was weird that they were all under him, like less than 10 feet under the two of them. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hello, we're back. You know, like, he doesn't say anything. He just lets them walk under them, and they're dragging. Something is going on. He doesn't say, what's going on?
Right.
You know, like, he just lets them. It's almost like they're not there. Like they're ghosts or something like that.
Oh, I remember this time.
Yeah, like she's the ghost of Christmas Future or something like that.
Right. Yeah. And then Aggie talking about air gap. And she's like, it was a crude but clever way. It was in my class. And it's like, what class were you taking? Technology from the last 300 years? Like,
I know. It felt it's such a we're from the future humor. It's like, we need to give her a reason to be able to hack into something that she's never seen before.
Right.
Again, with just as I said before, that technology is not this backwards compatible.
Right.
You can't just plug something in from 500 years in the future and it just works with something because, it's from the future.
Yeah.
Same thing with knowledge. It's safe to assume that anybody programming in a modern programming language today can't just sit down and go program something from 20, 30 years ago. It doesn't work that way. I mean, maybe the concepts are the same, but it's a language.
Right.
They're all languages. They're not just something where you can just sit down and start jamming away on a keyboard and come up with something. Mm-hmm. Even if you took a class on ancient coding techniques.
Yeah.
It would have been better just to let her rest in the I'm a genius thing.
Yeah.
And just let me figure this out. And now everybody can say that. I took a class in martial arts, so I can be at the head of the group.
Right.
I can say to everybody.
Yeah. I took a class in diplomacy. Let me handle this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just the last thing was that it's more of a nice Picard thing. I know it's not exclusive to Picard, but I think as far as Star Trek goes, it is, where they talk about what they're going to do as we watch them do it.
Are you speaking of the heist that they go into?
Yeah.
That was my least favorite part of this whole of all Star Trek.
They've done it in a couple other episodes. Did you not like it then either?
Specifically, so right before they start talking about how they're going to break into this party, right? Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, looks suspiciously very much like in the first Mission Impossible, kind of the first mission that they go on.
Oh, for
looks
sure.
Almost exactly.
Yeah.
But what I didn't like is that it was appropriately kind of creepy and tense and pensive in terms of the music and the mood of them talking about what they have to go do when everybody's kind of being brought up to speed. Mm-hmm. And then they say, here's how we have to go do it. And then the Ocean's 11 score kicks in.
Right.
And they start talking about how they're going to get. I was like, where the fuck did this come from? And it gets all hip, and the editing changes. I mean, I guess this is also Jonathan Frakes talking a little bit. It's like, we're going to do this now. Mm-hmm. And I disagree with this angle 100%.
Right.
It totally brought me out of it.
Okay.
Right?
Thankfully, it was near the end of the episode. Yeah.
And it was just like doom, 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 doom,
right.
Doom, doom.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally see where you're coming from. I mean, they did the same thing with their heist in the first season as well, when they were trying to get into the other bar.
Oh, when they're all dressed up like pimps?
Yeah.
But was there pimp music in the background? And
I don't remember. Yeah. I mean, maybe it was futuristic pimp music.
If they had just kept... I'd love to hear what that sounds like. If they would just have kept the music going the way it was.
Right.
I mean, I'm okay with increasing the pacing to sort of show... I mean, that's the best way to show a heist thing like this. You can't just go do it, and you can't just talk about what you're going to do. You kind of have to show them in tandem. It is not a new way of doing things.
That would be amazing. Like, it would be so frustrating as an audience, but if they talk about what they're going to do, and then it cuts to them all being in there, and they're like, all right, it worked.
This is the cheapest way we could have done this.
Right.
Yeah, that whole thing, it wasn't that long either.
No,
I was expecting like a 5-minute sequence. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they're leaning into this, but it wasn't that long.
No.
But wait a minute, we've gotten ahead of myself. Does that make sense?
No, but it works.
The Borg Queen and Aggie, Girardi.
Yeah.
It's funny. We call her Aggie and Agnes all the time. And then when I see it written, when I see Girardi written, I'm like, who is that?
I know. I genuinely, like the first episode or two when they were talking about Girardi, I was like, I don't know who is this person that they keep referencing.
A new character.
Yeah.
Great.
Like, why have we not seen this person yet? Why have we not seen that thing?
Okay, so the Borg Queen tries to take over the ship. And she says, computer, give me access to the cell tower. And it's like, no can do. And then she impersonates...
everybody, yeah.
Everybody. She impersonates Picard, and it says, no can do. I was like, oh, this is great. It's showing that it's not just doing the voice of somebody that can get you into something. Like, there's more to it. There's something else in a vocal representation of somebody that it's looking at. That it's not a dum-dum, right? It's not just Siri, right? But no, that is not the case. So the Borg Queen and Frank Caliendo can actually break into this Rios' ship. Yeah, I hated that part. I would have rather it was some sort of like she would manage to get one of her tentacles over into the computer or something like that.
Yeah. Well, especially since she could move her tentacles, which we found out later in the episode.
Apparently she was growing these tentacles. By the way, speaking of tentacles, they've made the Borg, at least this particular Borg Queen, a lot more kind of gross, organic type of thing. Like
like the tentacle was clear and slimy and not or like cyborg-ish.
It wasn't like it wasn't like mechanical like the Borg has always been in the past. Like if you think about all of the other Borg stuff in TNG or First Contact, it's always like that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's not like gross, slimy stuff. So I guess they want to demonic. There's a word there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
they're trying to make her gross.
Right.
I guess I found that interesting.
Yeah,
and that's the show. Is that the show? Oh wait, no, I got more.
Okay.
There's another page in my notes. So
you're like, and that's everything. Okay, let's. Oh wait, no, I've got this whole other page. Okay.
So all of the interactions between Q and Dr. Adam Soong. I was okay with Dr. Adam Soong. I felt like, man, this guy's genetics must be super robust because all of his offspring look exactly the same.
Well, to be fair,
exactly.
This is the only one that is biological.
Well, no, Noonien Soong was.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I thought you meant Daj, like the girls.
Right, so, well, it's plausible to think. So his daughter obviously survives, right? Because Noonien Soong, I'm guessing, survives or is born at a certain point. So even though,
all right, I see where you're going with that,
right? Like even though how different, whatever. 2024 Soji, I don't remember her name. How different she looks from Dr. Adam Soong. Her offspring will look exactly like Brent Spiner will in the future. That's how robust this guy's genes are.
Exactly.
His genetic lineage.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Q hacks into Soong's computer stuff and he makes this really cool Q thing, which I want, by the way. I hope they sell this. I thought it was cool. I wanted something, whatever that plate that he makes out of his 3D printer, I wanted it. And I thought it was going to be some way to read data or something like that. Like, I don't know. Data?
Right.
It wasn't data. Like, this is the beginning of data.
I wish Brent Spiner had said data when he was talking about you mined my data. Like, that would have been
wrong.
That would have been great. Like, yeah. Like, you're not supposed to say that.
I know. Q says, come to this cafe. And Adam comes. He says, in 17 seconds, you're going to sit down because you're a father. You want to save your daughter. And I timed it. And guess what?
What?
It was actually 17 seconds.
Was it 17 seconds? Did you go back and time it?
I went back and timed it.
Nice.
Anyway, so then, we have the whole exchange between the two. It's very vague. And I feel like we already talked about this, but what could this guy, who is apparently a good geneticist, but not an omnipotent being, what could he have that Q wants?
Right.
I couldn't think of anything. I could not concoct anything.
Well,
unless Q has been relegated to being human again and has some sort of disease, right?
But you probably wouldn't have met him in a cafe if that was the case. No, that's the thing. Like, what is Q playing at where he is trying to not only stop Renee, but also push Dr. Soong forward? And just a quick side note there, which is kind of fun. The reason why all of their information is sparse in this sparse. Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
It's just sparse, sir.
I was thinking of O'Brien. The reason why it's sparse is because the World War III involved EMPs, which wiped out so much of the records.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. But I figured out my biggest problem with the show so far. Of all of the shows.
Okay.
And all of the previous season as well. So far, there is a lack of ingenuity in all of the characters. With the exception of maybe Agnes, but all Agnes does is sort of at the last minute figures out how to hack something or how to turn something on. It's not really ingenuity. Like when you think about Geordi, he's concocting stuff. Like we hear his thought process, usually when he's talking to the computer. And it's not just that he's typing away at something. He's talking with Data or his other crew members about how to fix something. And they have those in Next Gen, they have those conferences where they're all talking stuff out and contributing to some goal to figure something out, right? There's ingenuity. Like, how can we figure this out? We have to solve this mystery. Nobody really does that in this show. Stuff is either thrown at them, or they're either having to just type something on their pads and then something happens. Like, it doesn't feel like even the stuff with Rafi hijacking the computer in the police cruiser, there wasn't really ingenuity there.
Right.
She kind of, there's no consequences to what she did, which is basically steals and and breaks the window of the cruiser.
Right.
There's no ingenuity.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of Star Trek. And even with Picard, he's kind of just going along with everything.
Right. Yeah, there's this mystery to solve, but they're following the breadcrumbs. You're right. They're not coming up with creative ways of solving these things. And the creative ways that they're solving it is to use their magic wand. Like, the technology is just doing it for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Which feels very Voyager-esque. They did that a lot in Voyager.
That's true.
Although, giving Voyager credit, they do talk a lot of stuff out. As long as Janeway isn't in the room. Right? There's always some kind of brainstorming going on.
Yeah. That's true, there is. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that on a Voyager episode. Right. We always do.
Which we have, yeah. But I guess the Borg Queen is being ingenuous? Ingenuitous? Ingenuine? What's the adjective for ingenuity?
Ingenious?
Is it?
I think so.
All right, fair enough. The Borg Queen is being ingenious. Doesn't feel right, but we'll go with it.
Really? Infamous?
That's what it feels like. I guess she's being that way, in a way. Like, she's using her surroundings to her benefit.
Maybe it is ingenuous instead of ingenious.
I don't know.
Like, it's got to be. Yeah.
I'm looking it up now. Look up.
Although it says ingenious. Yeah. Clever, original, and inventive. Yeah.
Okay.
But ingenuous is innocent and unsuspecting. Wow. Too close. Too close.
I feel sorry for people who don't speak English trying to learn English. But anyway, so what I was expecting is when the Borg Queen kidnaps the French police officer. I was and then she then calls with the loudspeaker. Who would have thought that a spacecraft would have a loudspeaker? Right. She calls Agnes on the loudspeaker, says, "Come and help me. We are having a party," or whatever she says.
Yeah.
I was expecting her to have embodied the French officer.
Oh, okay.
Like, there was some sort of transfer that happened.
Right.
Because she doesn't have legs, as we spoke about.
Yeah. It's crazy that Agnes has had the Borg Queen in her this entire episode.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping, because like that's the last shot of the episode where it pans over and she's kind of sitting with her arm around her, a la kind of Battlestar Galactica. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I can't possibly explain it to you. Right. But if you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, there's a similar thing where the machines the Cylons can kind of haunt you. Yeah, I know. All right, fine. I didn't like the show. I'm just trying to give you an example of another. But anyway, so she's in some way being either controlled or kind of has the angel on the shoulder type of thing, or the devil on the shoulder.
Yeah. There's a devil on her shoulder where the angel used to be. You don't know that reference, don't laugh. But that's a deep cut for anybody who's a Disney fan.
What is it?
Descendants 3?
Oh, I thought this was a Emperor's New Groove. Doesn't that happen in Emperor's New Groove?
Yeah. Oh, my shoulder angel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I thought that. Yeah. I love that movie. When can we do that movie?
What does that have to do with... No. He's got a point.
I can do this.
Right. It's so good.
Yeah, it's good. Oh, I'm kind of liking the Borg Queen snark stuff.
More? Or you've been enjoying it and you still enjoy it?
I feel like like, I like this new development with Agnes and the Borg Queen. I don't like this thing now that we have to go through that, like, oh, Agnes is acting strange. Have you noticed? It's like, no, she seems fine to me. Like this whole thing where we know and they don't know and we have to wait for them to catch up to it. And it's like a whole plotline thing. Kind of similar to the whole Rios not having amnesia and being stuck somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's that thing. It's like, oh God, we have to wait for this to catch up to itself.
So, yeah. So you saying that kind of makes me realize either put it in the previously on so that way the audience is caught up, or put it in the episode and don't have the previously on, like you were saying, where we can have 2 minutes more of story. But we don't need that information presented from the previous episode and then have someone explain it later on as well. You know, like I can guarantee in the next episode, the Borg Queen will say something like appreciative about being in Agnes's body, or Agnes will say like, I don't want you in here or something like that. And then the Borg will be like, well, you shouldn't have shot me when I was trying to get in the cop or whatever.
Right. Yep.
You know, they will do something, even though it will be in the previously on, where they will show her shooting her neck and then the Borg Queen implanting herself into Agnes. They will still reference what happened to get there in the dialogue.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We will be reminded of it.
Yes.
Over and over again.
We will probably be reminded again about how Rafi's distraught over Elnor's death, too. I'm just throwing that out there. If I had to predict what's going to happen in the next episode.
Well, we're kind of reminded about that every single scene that Rafi's in.
Right.
So, I know this is a nitpick that really doesn't matter, but the 100-year-old shotgun that still works that Agnes uses to shoot the Borg, like she couldn't just have grabbed a phaser, in the glove compartment.
Well, she couldn't have grabbed a phaser because I have to assume that the Borg has like a way to dispel direct shots to her that way. But you're right.
Okay.
Like, why was that gun loaded?
Or she had to go hunting around for shells.
Oh, no. Remember, she took a class.
I programmed this to shoot. Yeah, it just, I don't know. It felt like, okay, I will go with you on this because it gets us to the end of it. But could you, again, with the ingenuity, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What did you think of this episode? I feel like we've complained a lot about it, but I was kind of okay with this episode because of how they paced it.
Yeah, no. This is what I said. I love the story. I love the plot. There are things about the character lines and choices that just get under my skin. Like they say things that, like you said, are out of character, or like they're out of character either because it's not something that the person would say, or there's no way that the person would know those things. Like, why does Picard know about all of Kirk's travels now and his adventures? And why? Like, he's like, oh, we've been through the ups and downs, the thick and thin, but
Right.
we're BFFs.
Right. Who wrote this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it was a very well directed episode. I felt like once you start to, almost like a Nolan movie, once you start to think about it, it really starts to corrode.
But I am hopeful that I'm still hopeful that Rafi redeems herself, and I'm still hopeful that we're just not understanding what's happening with Q because we haven't seen the whole thing yet. Not because kind of what you just said, like if you start to think about it, it falls apart.
Well, Q, we've only seen Q in Next Gen. I think in Voyager when he shows up, he's also in a precarious situation.
Yeah.
But we're not used to seeing Q desperate.
Right.
And maybe that's a good thing. He seems to be desperate for this person's help. But why he's put himself in this situation, we don't know.
Yeah, that's where my question is.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm still on. I'm going to continue watching.
What if it got so bad? Like episode 7, we're like, nope, that's it. Done. Don't even care.
Dude, I wish this podcast was on Yellowstone because I'm there with Yellowstone. I'm like halfway done with season 4. And I mean, Jesse is getting so tired of me talking about it because every single episode they do this thing that we're complaining about where the characters do unexplainable things and inconsistent things. And not because they're inconsistent characters, but because they're writing them inconsistently.
Right.
It seems like just strangers off the street are being tasked with writing an episode of Yellowstone, knowing nothing about what's happened.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. And I'm only watching it now so I can see what happens and to hate it. I'm hate watching, I guess. The end on Yellowstone.
Okay.
Tune in next week for another update about Yellowstone.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely going in my comments on the on our Facebook page. Which, by the way, we never mentioned this, but we do have a Facebook page. If you found us either by searching on podcasts or you found us in one of the Facebook groups, if you just link through, very, very often, if not all the time, that post that you clicked is from our Facebook group page. Go over and give it a like. Just curious to know how many people are actually finding us on Facebook and finding us through Twitter and all that sort of thing. So you can also email us at TheMeasureOfAnEpisode@gmail.com, all one word.
And leave us a like, even if you didn't find us on Facebook. Wherever you get your podcast, leave us a good comment or a good review. It really helps us find more people, keeps the old lights on,
But more, I want to know who is listening. Who are you? What? How did you find us? What do you think of the episode? That's what I'm looking for in the review. I just want to know that I know there are people listening. So thank you so much for those of you who are. And if this is your first episode, I'm just, who are you?
Yeah. Are you also hate listening? As I am with Yellowstone?
Yeah.
We want to know. But anyway, keep tuning in next week. We will be doing episode 6 of Picard.
Yeah. Every Wednesday we release episodes of Classic Trek. So we do episodes of Enterprise, Voyager, Next Gen, the original series. We've done a few of Lower Decks, and I think that's all we've done so far.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. We break them down. Yeah. We decide, is it actually Star Trek or is it just television?
Just television. Yeah.
Even if it's good. It may not be Star Trek. We talk about it endlessly.
We do. So go check it out. Anyway, I've been Jonathan.
I've been Paul.
And this has been The Measure of an Episode, Star Trek Edition, Picard Edition, Season 2 Edition, Episode 5 Addition.
Addition, right. I'm trying to think of who I should do. Is it Picard? I'll do Picard.
Right.
But you already knew that. No, that was Dracula. Sorry. I'm letting it stand.
All right.